Throughout this Holy Week, Christians around the world tell and retell the story of a peacemaker king and the story that led up to his crucifixion by the political powers of his day. The story when Jesus was put to death by a council that sought to silence his radical good news. It's not lost on me that this same week, the so-called God Squad convenes to determine which of God's creatures are expendable. Once again, just like that week over 2,000 years ago, a council of political leaders convenes to decide who lives and who dies. At the end of this week, we'll commemorate Good Friday, the day that Jesus was crucified. And as Jesus hangs there on the cross, his final words are, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And then silence. Silence. The silence of a call ringing out that is not answered. I can't hear this, but help think of the call of the Rice's whale. I listened to one of the calls of the Rice's whale earlier this week. The call is called a long moan call. It's a gorgeous bass vibrato of a call. If you haven't listened to it, please do so. I listened to that call and I imagine it saying to us, my friends, my fellow creatures, why have you forsaken me? I listen and I wonder, will this call go out in silence? Will there be a day when this call, the last Rice's whale long moan call, calls out into the water and is not returned? Why have you forsaken me? This week it is not only Christ who cries, why have you forsaken me? Creation itself is crying too. And we find ourselves right now in a Good Friday moment. We know that the death and the extinction of these creatures, that the extinction of the Rice's whale, America's only endemic whale, is a real possibility. And yet, I hope. I hope because for my people, Good Friday is not the end of the story. We look toward Easter Sunday when we are collectively reminded, resurrection is possible. And for these species, I know that restoration is possible. And that's because we know the Endangered Species Act works. The Act has prevented 291 species from going extinct. 291 species whose calls continue to ring out. 291 species whose lives continue to proclaim the glory of God, and 291 species who reveal a different piece of the love and the nature of God. The Endangered Species Act is proof that resurrection is not mere belief. It is something that we can practice. 14th century mystic priest and theologian Meister Eckhart once wrote, "Every single creature is full of God and a book about God. Every creature is a word of God. So full of God is every creature." So full of God is the Rice's whale. So full of God is the sperm whale. So full of God is the Gulf sturgeon. So full of God is the hawksbill and the Kemp's ridley and the leatherback and the loggerhead turtles. So full of God is every creature that is threatened, endangered, and faces extinction, that to lose one is to lose a piece of God. And these beautiful creatures are the real God Squad. I believe that resurrection is possible. I believe that restoration for these creatures is possible. But we cannot celebrate Easter while we continue to crucify creation. So to those meeting in this building today claiming the authority to decide what lives and dies, I say this: that is not your role. That is not your power. And when you take that power, you are playing God, and we know how that story ends. So to these folks behind me in this building, you have a choice before you right now. A choice to participate in extinction or to participate in resurrection. The Endangered Species Act has already shown us what resurrection looks like 291 times over. So what will you do? Will you choose life, or will you be remembered as those who silenced it? And I pray you'll make the right choice. Woo!